IMSA has revealed their entry list for the 2024 season, including a record-breaking 48 full-time entries for the WeatherTech Sportscar Championship. So for this video, I will analyze the entry list for IMSA's WeatherTech Championship next season. In terms of the entry list, next season IMSA is expected to have an incredible year of competition, including new GT entries like Ford's Mustang GT3, new LMP2 teams, and Lamborghini's arrival to the GTP category. The amount of competitors next season is just amazing. 48 cars will take to the full-time grid, and I haven't even talked about the Michelin endurance rounds of IMSA. Now, a quick reminder before I break down the entry list, LMP3 cars are no longer present on the WeatherTech Championship grid. However, these prototypes will still be racing in IMSA next season, just not in the main championship. The LMP3 cars will continue to race in the VP Racing Sportscar Challenge, which is IMSA's support series. I'll begin with GTP, IMSA's flagship category. There will be 10 full-time cars on the grid next season, including 2 Cadillacs for 2024. The American squad will not change anything. Chip Ganassi Racing is still entering the 01, and Action Express Racing is still entering the 31. Both Porsche and BMW's entries remain unchanged. Porsche Penske Motorsport will once again have the 6 and the 7 racing, whereas BMW will continue with the 24 and 25 M Hybrid V8s. As for the customer 963 teams, JDC Miller Motorsports and Proton Competition will once again compete in GTP, but a change for 2024 sees both the teams' entries entered for the full season of IMSA, also competing at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Acura is making changes for 2024. Wayne Taylor Racing will continue with the number 10 Konica Minolta entry, but they will add on a second Wayne Taylor Acura, this being the number 40 car. Meyer-Shank Racing will meanwhile not continue into IMSA next season. They are taking a break to focus on their IndyCar campaign. I explain MSR's temporary exit from IMSA in a separate video. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video and in the description. So those are the full-time GTP entries, but I'm sure the first question that comes to your mind is, where is Lamborghini's LMDh? Well, here's the situation. While Lamborghini will enter IMSA next season, they will only enter the Michelin endurance rounds. The tracks the SC63 will participate at are Sebring, Watkins Glen, Indianapolis, and Road Atlanta. According to an article put out by Sportscar 365, Lamborghini's boss of motorsport, Giorgio Senna, described the fact that Lamborghini will likely not participate at the Rolex 24 with the SC63. We will do what's needed in terms of homologation process, and to also collect as much data as possible. But then today, to say that we'd be ready to do Daytona is too early. At this moment, it's not planned. However, one GTP entry that could participate at Daytona is the 02 Cadillac. This is Chip Ganassi's second entry that normally races in the WEC. But before the WEC began in 2023, Chip Ganassi's blue Cadillac came over to race at the Rolex 24. So I wouldn't be surprised if the 02 Cadillac makes it onto the grid. Moving on to the approved entries for LMP2, as the class will have 12 entries for 2024. One noticeable change is the arrival of United Autosports. The team is famous for participating in the World Endurance Championship. However, the WEC is axing the LMP2 class after 2023, meaning United Autosports had to make a change, resulting in them returning to the IMSA WeatherTech Sportscar Championship. A lot of these cars are staying on from LMP2 last year, like the number 11 TDS Racing entry or the number 52 PR1 Matheson entry. And speaking of PR1 Matheson Motorsports, for 2024 they will actually be partnering with the 2023 LMP2 Le Mans winners Inter Europol. But besides United Autosports, there are still some new arrivals, such as the number 74 Riley and the number 33 Sean Creech Motorsports entry. Both entries previously raced in LMP3, but since IMSA collapsed the category, these teams have moved up to LMP2. An interesting fact about the number 33 Shonkrich Motorsports entry is that it will be the only LMP2 car on the grid that uses a Ligier JS P217 chassis. Every other entry is using an Oreca 07 chassis. I also wanted to mention that AO Racing are also stepping up to LMP2. Don't worry, Rexy isn't going anywhere. That entry will move up to GTD Pro. AO Racing are just expanding to an LMP2 entry as well. Speaking of GTD Pro, let's move on to that entry list, and this one has gotten me really excited. In 2023, GTD Pro had 5 full-time entries. For 2024, that grid size will double. 10 full-time entries are confirmed, 13 overall including the Michelin Endurance Round entries. There are actually some big changes to the entry list for GTD Pro. The number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW, the number 92 Kalimos Porsche, and AO Racing's Rexy Porsche will all move up to the GTD Pro class. Meanwhile, there will be 2 Corvettes on the grid, both from Pratt Miller Motorsports. Pfaff will actually switch from Porsche to McLaren, which is a big shock for that team considering that they've run a Porsche entry for quite some time now. And the big new arrivals are those Ford Mustangs. Both cars are factory-backed Ford entries, but they will be run by Multimatic Motorsports. This is the same team that ran Mazda's DPI program back in the DPI era of IMSA. They've actually brought over one of the drivers that raced in the Mazda DPI. That's Harry Tinknell from Proton Competition. It's also worth mentioning, while we're on the subject of Ford drivers, that Mike Rockenfeller will also join Harry Tinknell in one of the Fords. This means that Tinknell and Rockenfeller will leave their respective roles of driving full-time in the Porsche 963s. Moving on to our final class entry list, that being GTD. GTD will have 17 full-time entries on the grid, 22 entries overall when IMSA heads to the Michelin Endurance Rounds. A big change for GTD this year is the arrival of 2 Corvette Z06 GT3R entries from AWA. The Canadian team has actually been racing in the LMP3 class, but with IMSA collapsing the LMP3 category, AWA has since partnered with Corvette to race in GTD. And for the first time since 2018, a full-time Ferrari entry will be on the WeatherTech Championship grid. Conquest Racing are entering a Ferrari 296 into the full season of 2024. So that concludes the entry list for IMSA's 2024 season of the WeatherTech Championship. Which entry will you be backing next season? As always, let me know all your thoughts on this video's topic down in the comments. Do you like endurance racing? Well, if you do, I highly suggest you subscribe. I produce content for you weekly on WEC and IMSA. And speaking of content, here are some videos you can watch right now. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.